They thought she was decorating the ditch until the flood saved their harvest. The first time anyone saw Lily kneeling beside the old drainage ditch with a basket full of flowering plants, the laughter spread across the farming community before sunset. Has she finally lost her mind? Flowers? Beside a ditch? Maybe she thinks pretty colors will make crops grow. The comments followed her wherever she went. Every morning before sunrise, while other farmers hurried toward their cornfields with fertilizer and tractors, Lily quietly walked to the winding ditch that separated several neighboring farms. Instead of planting another acre of corn or soybeans, she carefully placed native wildflowers, thick grasses, reeds, and small shrubs along both sides of the ditch. She measured the spacing. She loosened the soil. She watered each tiny plant. To everyone watching, it looked ridiculous. They believed she was wasting valuable land. The ditch had existed for decades. Rainwater flowed through it every wet season before disappearing into the nearby creek. Nobody paid attention to it. Nobody cared what grew there. So why would anyone spend weeks making it beautiful? Even Lily's closest neighbors couldn't understand. One afternoon, an older farmer named Dennis leaned against the fence. "Lily," he called with a grin. "You planning a wedding?" The nearby workers laughed. Lily smiled politely. "No." Dennis pointed toward the flowers. "Then why all this decorating?" Lily wiped dirt from her hands. "I'm not decorating." The laughter became louder. Dennis shook his head. "Sure looks like decorating." Lily simply returned to planting. She had learned long ago that arguing rarely changed people's minds. Here's a smoother and more natural version for your video. If you're seeing this channel for the first time, welcome. Please don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring farm stories like this one. Now, let's continue the story. Years earlier, Lily's grandfather had taught her something that never left her memory. After a heavy rainstorm, they walked along an old creek surrounded by thick grasses and native plants. Her grandfather knelt beside the flowing water. "See this?" Lily nodded. "The plants hold the soil together." Her grandfather picked up loose dirt nearby. "When people clear everything, water becomes stronger." He threw the soil into the stream. It disappeared instantly. But roots slow the water. He grabbed another handful beneath the grass. This time the soil stayed firm. Nature protects itself. Young Lily never forgot those words. Years later, after studying soil conservation at agricultural workshops and reading research from experienced conservation farmers, she realized many modern drainage systems failed because people stripped away every protective plant. The ditches became smooth channels. Water rushed faster. Soil disappeared. Flooding became worse. Instead of fighting water, nature slowed it. That lesson stayed with her. Now everyone believed she was planting flowers for decoration. Only Lily knew she was rebuilding a living barrier. The valley contained nearly 30 farms. Most had expanded over the years. Trees were removed. Natural grasses disappeared. Every extra foot became farmland. Bigger harvests meant bigger profits. At least during normal years. Whenever someone suggested leaving strips of vegetation beside waterways, most farmers refused. "That's wasted land. We need every acre." Even the local equipment dealer joked. "If flowers made money, we'd all be florists." Everyone laughed. Lily laughed too. Not because it was funny. Because she knew convincing people before evidence existed was nearly impossible. So instead of arguing, she planted another 100 grasses. Within weeks, something unusual happened. Butterflies appeared. Then bees. Dragonflies hovered above the ditch. Birds nested among the taller plants. Children walking home from school stopped to admire the colorful blooms. Parents thought it looked nice. Farmers thought it looked foolish. One afternoon, a little girl asked her father, Why doesn't everyone make their ditches look like Miss Lily's? The father chuckled. Because we're farmers. But she is too. The father paused. He had no answer. Late summer arrived with unusual forecasts. Meteorologists warned that an enormous storm system was forming. Several days of heavy rainfall were expected. Most people weren't worried. The valley had survived storms before. Farmers checked machinery, moved equipment. Harvest time was approaching. Nobody imagined what was coming. Lily did something different. She inspected every section of her planted ditch. She trimmed damaged stems, removed fallen branches, checked water flow, strengthened weak areas with additional native grasses. Dennis drove past again. You still babysitting flowers? Lily smiled. I'm preparing. For what? The rain. Dennis laughed and drove away. The rain started quietly. Then it intensified. Hour after hour. Day after day. Creeks filled. Roadside ditches overflowed. Fields became saturated. By the second night, thunder echoed across the valley without stopping. Lightning flashed every few minutes. Rain hammered rooftops like endless drums. Families stayed awake listening. Nobody slept well. At sunrise, the real danger arrived. Water rushed downhill faster than anyone had ever seen. Freshly plowed fields released rivers of mud. Drainage channels overflowed. Entire sections of farmland began washing away. Panic spread. Dennis watched helplessly. His topsoil disappeared. Young corn bent beneath rushing water. Deep erosion carved wide trenches through his property. Several neighboring farms experienced the same nightmare. Thousands of dollars worth of fertile soil vanished in hours. The floodwater became thick brown rivers carrying years of hard work downstream. People shouted. Tractors became trapped. Equipment stalled. Everyone focused on saving whatever they could. Then someone noticed something impossible. Lily's ditch wasn't collapsing. It wasn't overflowing violently. Instead, the thick grasses bent with the current. The flowering plants slowed the rushing water. The deep roots held the soil together. Water spread gently across the vegetated strip instead of carving destructive channels. The ditch remained intact. The living barrier created something nobody expected. As water slowed inside Lily's section of the drainage network, less sediment traveled downstream. Neighboring fields directly connected to her ditch also experienced less erosion. Instead of becoming a destructive river, the water gradually lost energy. The plants trapped floating debris. Roots stabilized the banks. Mud settled before reaching lower farms. Hours later, emergency workers surveying flood damage noticed something remarkable. The healthiest drainage section belonged to Lily. One conservation officer quietly said, "This is exactly how these systems were supposed to work." When sunlight finally returned, the valley looked different. Several farms needed major repairs. Deep gullies scarred the land. Washed-out roads blocked equipment. Broken fences lay scattered. Meanwhile, Lily walked beside her ditch. Many flowers were flattened. Some stems had broken. But nearly every root remained firmly in place. The soil was still there. The banks had survived. Her crops stood healthier than expected. Dennis crossed the muddy field in silence. He stared at the ditch for nearly a minute. Finally, he asked, "You knew this would happen?" Lily shook her head. "I hoped the plants would do their job." Dennis looked again. "I thought you were decorating." Lily smiled. "I was protecting." News spread quickly. Agricultural advisors visited. Local reporters arrived. Drone footage compared neighboring fields. The difference amazed everyone. The colorful ditch wasn't merely attractive. It had become natural infrastructure. Experts explained how native vegetation slows runoff, filters sediment, strengthens soil, encourages beneficial insects, and reduces erosion. Farmers who once laughed now asked questions. What grasses did you use? Where did you buy them? How deep are the roots? Lily answered every question patiently. She never reminded anyone about the jokes. She never said, "I told you so." She simply shared what she had learned. During the following months, something remarkable happened. Farm after farm began restoring vegetated drainage channels. Native flowers returned. Pollinators increased. Bird populations grew. The valley slowly transformed. Visitors came to study the project. Agricultural students toured the farms. Conservation organizations praised the community. Even Dennis planted his own living ditch. One afternoon, he laughed while placing wildflower seeds into the soil. If someone had told me last year I'd be planting flowers. Lily grinned. I know. Dennis smiled. You'd have laughed too. Weeks later, the combines rolled across golden fields. Despite the devastating flood, many farms connected to the restored drainage system harvested stronger crops than expected. The soil had remained where it belonged. Nutrients weren't washed away as severely. The harvest became a symbol of resilience instead of disaster. At the annual community gathering, local leaders honored several families who helped restore the valley. When Lily's name was announced, the applause lasted longer than anyone expected. People who once mocked her now stood proudly. Children handed her a basket filled with wildflowers. The same flowers everyone had laughed at. Lily accepted them with quiet gratitude. Sometimes the smartest ideas don't look impressive at first. Sometimes they even look foolish. People laughed because they saw flowers. Lily saw protection. They saw decoration. She saw preparation. When the flood arrived, the difference between appearance and purpose became impossible to ignore. The greatest harvest wasn't measured only in bushels of grain. It was measured in wisdom shared, land preserved, and a community that learned one simple truth. Nature often provides the best solutions if we're willing to learn from it.